everyone, this is going to be a short informational video covering the group project. So we'll start by going to content, and then we'll scroll down to assignments and go to see group strategic planning project, and you'll be taken to a screen that looks similar to this. Now with everything else in the course, I have a descriptor that I pulled from the syllabus listed up here to give you a little bit more insight into the project itself. And it'll give you a couple points of reference, but what I want to do is go over the project a little bit more in depth. Now, I will say within week 4, we'll click on it very briefly, the whole week is dedicated to the project discussion. So please make sure to pull up this lecture slide and look over that and let me know if you have any questions. We'll go back to assignments, group strategic planning project. And what I want to do is start with the project outline. To go over that, let you know what some expectations are for the project overall. Now just a general overview for the project. The preference here is for the organization that you work with to be local, but I understand that may not always be feasible to do. So if you have difficulties securing a local organization, just let me know and we can maybe work to find organization virtually that you can work with. Now when you look or think about how the project is going to come together, think of this inverted pyramid, and I discussed that in week 4 when we talk about the project itself. But what we should start is very broad with the mission, vision, and values, work down to the SWOT analysis, goals, objectives, finishing with the action plans and the evaluation mechanism that runs through the entirety of the project. Now, as far as the content, what I'm looking for is that you are taking the information that we've worked on all semester through the group worksheets, and you're taking the feedback from the discussion boards to create this quasi-strategic plan with a particular focus on the detailed SWOT analysis. My understanding as a group that you have made a good faith effort in this planning assignment, and my expectation is going to be that you've made extensive revisions throughout the semester on this project. Now again, I'll go over the rubric in just a second. That is available to you on D2L, and that will help you in creating the final presentation. Here is my suggestion of how to format the presentation. Start with the organizational background profile, and here are some essential questions that you may want to ask yourself when you're considering the information to give to your audience. The purpose of that organizational background profile, you can think of it this way, is to help your audience start to make assumptions about what they are going to see on your SWOT analysis. So we're looking at different aspects like your service lines, your position and role in the community, your demographic mix, who is the main population that you serve, what's their income level, their education level, different competitors that are nearby, different industries that are located nearby. But this section must end with a bullet pointed list of your mission, vision, and values for the organization. Now the next section will be your SWOT and environmental analysis. And this will be covered throughout the semester, so this may be a lot of information right now. So I would encourage you to come back and refer to this video several times throughout the semester. But what teams must do is create what's called this 4-box grid down here, outlining the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that the group thought was most pertinent to the organization. And what you will do is create a section for each of the 4 sections in that box. So you'll have a section detailing the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and then the threats. Detailing why those identified elements are considered either strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat. Now this is where the majority of your research is going to come in. So I would expect references like the CDC, the American Hospital Association, countyhealthrankings.org, DHHS, depending on what your organization is that you're looking at. Will depend on what reference you go to choose, but this is where I expect to see the majority of the research done. Again, you'll conclude this section with the 4-box grid, and you'll talk about how you leverage the strengths that you know the organization has with the opportunities that exist out in the environment, while simultaneously trying to neutralize the threats and the weaknesses, or how the organization can take their internal weaknesses and turn them into strengths. Now, as we move into the goals, objectives, and action plans, each team is going to determine 3 goals. Each goal is going to have 2 objectives, and each objective is going to have 1 action plan. So you're going to conclude this section just telling me how everything relates back and drives the SWOT analysis as well as the mission, vision, and values. So think about, let's scroll back up a second, think about that inverted pyramid. In that section, we're right here in the goals and objectives, and so what I would expect to see is how everything is feeding back up into the prior section above it, because all of this should be related, and everything we should do should work to drive the mission, vision, and values for the organization. So we'll scroll on back down. We'll finish with the evaluation and monitoring, and what I would expect to see is evaluation and monitoring mechanisms that relate back to the goals, the objectives, the action plans, the SWOT, and the mission, vision, and values. And conclude with a reference slide. So here you should have at minimum 3 peer-reviewed sources. So peer-reviewed sources, those are going to be things like peer-reviewed journals that go through the peer review process. You have 3 different reviewers that look at the journal article, and attest to its viability, and that the research has been done for the article. You can also use sites like the CDC, County Health Rankings is one that I mentioned earlier, American Heart Association. What I don't want to see is Wikipedia or blogs, news sources. Those are not considered peer review sources. So let your best practice be, if you're questionable about a source, just shoot me an email, let me know, and we'll be able to clarify that for you. Now, your technical specifications for the presentation, the time limit here is going to be 20 to 25 minutes. Every team member is expected to deliver a part of the presentation. How I've had group members break this up in the past is, if it's been a group of 4, I've had 1 group member do the organizational background, maybe 2 group members split the SWOT analysis piece because it is rather lengthy. Another group member covered the goals, objectives, and action plans, and then worked their way into the monitoring section. But how you want to divide it is up to you, but the expectation is that every member of the team will present. Now, I want you to design your slide deck and your presentation as if you were going to submit this to your CEO, your manager, your supervisor of the organization that you're working with, and not just your friend that you're talking to. So please make sure there is that professional tone there. And also, in regards to the references, again, you have to have 3 peer-reviewed sources. Please make sure those are formatted to APA style. Now, that is within the slide itself as well as the reference slide. Now, there are a couple submissions to make to the Dropbox. You'll have the professional presentation, you'll have the team project submission form, and any handouts that you feel would enhance your presentation at all, overall. And then you do have your individual peer evaluations that are due. Now, we'll go back to the group strategic planning project, and we'll scroll down. We'll go over the team project submission form quickly, just to familiarize yourself with it. So as we can see here, you're being asked a few questions just as a group. Describe or list the things that were most difficult about the assignment. What is something that you as a group learned from the project, and overall, how much time did it take your group to complete this project? Just a couple quick self-check pieces to make sure you've met the components of the presentation, and that will be due to the Dropbox as well. Now, I said we would go over the rubric, and it's listed right here, final project presentation rubric, grading rubric. And what we see here is the rubric laid out Now, when you submit your presentation and I sit down to review them, I will print off several copies of this, and I will go through and check that you met each one of these points, that you're meeting the criteria contained within the target columns here. So if you want, a target grade of 10 points, make sure you're meeting all the criteria that are listed here, as well as the criteria that are listed below here under criteria. And you should be fine. Everything is laid out for the specifications and the expectation of the final project. Now I have a separate module listed here for the team maker contract and peer evaluations, with a separate just informational video for you to review there. So I encourage you to watch that. But a couple of the pieces that you'll need for this project are contained here: the team maker survey, the contract, as well as your final peer evaluation. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know.